Hey there, my name is John Siskovich, and I want to wrap up a series that I've been doing as consumer reviews for, in particular, this one quoting to be pasture-raised egg producer. Now, in the last two videos, we went over how beautiful their marketing is and how beautiful their packaging is and all the lessons we can learn from that. We went over last week on the scale and how much that scale of how they're operating impacts the land. Today we're going to take it down to the chicken level and see how far a chicken has to walk if she wants to get her own individual 108 square feet. Today's video we're going to break down a center point, the radius of a circle, and what that means for birds. So in this video series, we've been talking about not just talking the talk, but walking the walk. And today we're going to break down chicken walk. So the first thing we're going to do is take down the average size of a farm that grows for Vital and see how far a chicken, what is the furthest a chicken has to walk. And then if we scaled it up, what does that look like? And just kind of what does that translate into actual chicken steps? Then we're going to look at a real pasture-based system where the birds are mobile and moving around, and how you would do your calculations for the mobile netting that we use in pasture-based systems so that it's not a fixed point. The birds are actually moving around the pasture. And then finally, we're going to wrap up with looking at some real live case studies from Vital's marketing, from my own little internet digging, where I got some screen grabs. We're going to pull up Google Maps, satellite images, all this stuff free and available on the internet, completely transparent. This is just, if I'm at the store spending money on eggs, this is what the depth of information I want to know about the labels. And then after this video, we're getting off Vital Farms. I don't want to seem like they're the devil or they're bad or in any way. I just want to show that, you know, this is their marketing, this is where it falls short, and then we're going to move on. I'm going to do other consumer reviews. I don't want to spread negativity on the internet, but I said that in the last video. I felt the need to say it again just because there are real people involved with this who are working really hard, and my beef is with their marketing, not with people growing for them. So we know from previous videos how big the average of the smaller size barns are for Vital Farms growers and what the claimed outdoor space is going to be. So a quick recap on that. There's 5,000 birds or hens per barn. It goes up from there. There's 108 square feet per hen claimed of outdoor space, and once they get outside. And we know that if 5,000 birds need 108 square feet, that's roughly 12.4 acres of space. Now, if we do some simple algebra, given our total area, we want to find, if that's our fixed barn point, what is the furthest distance that a bird is going to have to travel to get her own 108 square feet. Some are going to be able to walk outside and just stop and be like, this is my paradise. This is as far as I had to go. But there's some other adventurers who are like, dude, 108 square feet per bird. We need to go out here. This is where mine is. This is where Henrietta's is. This is where Foghorn Leghorn is. So we're gonna figure out kind of the geometry of this and what that means, and then look at some Vital Farms later. So I had to do some simple math for this, some algebra, and not my strongest suit in school growing up. And there's a few people at home double checking my math. This is not about me having 100% perfect numbers. You should be doing your math at home. You should be not believing everything you see on the internet. You should do your own math, because these videos are not about exposing one little tiny element. It's about exposing the process. How do we get to these numbers? What does that mean? What variables can change in it, and how does that adapt to your area? Different numbers are going to be different for different growers, and that is enough disclaimer for this point in the video. So radius equals the square root of the area divided by pi. So if we know that 12.4 acres is our area, pi rounded up is 3.1416, our radius will be from the center point out to the edge of the circle. Diameter would be all the way across, circumference would be totally around the circle. I know we have different people of different age levels and skill levels who watch these videos, so I'm sorry if I'm mansplaining it all. So our radius from the center to the outside is 415 feet. So let's say that the average chicken step is about 6 inches. They could take a big stride and take 8 to 10 inches. They could take small strides and do like 2 inches at a time, but we're averaging things out here. It's not about the numbers, it's about the process. How do we get to these numbers and what do they all mean? So the average chicken step about 6 inches per step with that chicken. And we know chickens don't walk in a straight line. They don't take the same size step every time, but we're averaging. So if you're going to the outside of that radius, the radius of that circle, they're taking 829 steps to get from the barn to the outside for that 108 square feet. And not every chicken is going to be incentivized to do this. If I'm Henrietta and I want to get my individual 108 square feet, I'm going to have to go out to the limits of this 12 and a half acres in order to get my own 108 square feet. Otherwise, I'm doubling up with other chickens, and then that 108 square math just falls apart. So if I'm just getting to the outside, that's 128 steps. If I'm going out and back again, that's 1,658 steps to go from the barn to the outside of that radius and then back again to the barn, which is pretty wild. Like, to get a chicken whose feed, water, and nesting boxes and all their friends are out here to be like, hey, listen, I'm a chicken. I need my equal space. I know that all this area is taken up. I have to go out there to get mine. They're going to go out here. That's a little ridiculous. So we had that that was for 5,000 chickens. For 10,000 birds, it scales up. So to get to the outside, they have to do 586 steps. That's 1,173 steps. And then, they're not going in a straight line. They're not going... So I put my chicken GPS in, and my 108 square feet is over here in the southwest quadrant, and we're going to go out the southwest door, and we're going to go out in a straight line over to exactly where I need to go. This stuff is going to overlap, and with 10,000 birds, there's going to be a lot of overlap, and it's going to impact the ground because they have to get out to that. It's not like they're coming out of a coop and going into fresh pasture. They're going from a barn and walking across already tread ground to get to their own square feet. Then you go up to 20,000 birds. We're scaling it up now. 20,000 birds, that's 1,658 steps to get to the outside. And round trip, that's 3,317 steps. That means nothing. This is stupid now. We're getting into dumb math on the internet, on a YouTube video, for whatever reason. So I want to translate it into John steps, like me. So if I'm a chicken in a barn, and let's scale everything up. The barn fits 10,000, 5,000, 20,000 Johns in it. If I was to take 3,317 steps to get my food and then come back again, if my average step is about 2.5 feet, so it's about 30 inches per step, I would have to walk 1.57 miles round trip to get my own little square footage of space where I can go, this is great, this is where I can forage. And what I'm coming to is like all of this math, which is great marketing material, really good. And they are giving more space to birds and encouraging birds to go outside. But at the end of the day, is it pasture raised? No, because me as John the chicken has to travel 1.5 miles every single day to go out to my 108 square feet, which we know based off of my poop is only good for about 40 days a year. Now, if we're getting into pasture fencing, if we're going to mobile realm where we have mobile pasture fencing, and with mobile houses, and we're going to see this in the end of the video, so stay tuned. They're on wheels, and they can do it on a small scale with a couple hundred hens per coop. And the largest producer I know, who's an apper producer, so say the producers who are working for Vital are 5, 10, and 20,000 birds. The largest producer that I know on the West Coast, and I'm going to talk to them first before I start naming names and putting everything in, and maybe we'll do a case study on it, does 40,000 birds rotated on pasture in mobile coops. The entire thing is mobile. And to do it mobile, you use electric netting to keep them safe from ground predators, and you might use livestock guardian dogs to keep them safe from aerial predators, ground predators. Just livestock guardian dogs are great. With that pasture fencing, we want to find the total area if we know the given length of a fence, their standard fence lengths. So the area equals the circumference squared divided by 4 times pi. Well, I had to find all these equations and how to do those symbols in Keynote for this video, which was fun. I know some keyboard shortcuts now. When I buy fence, I buy from Premier One Fence. They're premieronesupplies.com. They have a great product. I've left them out for years now. That fences don't deteriorate. I've had really great success with managing my birds with these mobile pastured nettings. The average poultry fence is 164 feet long for their average fence length. They make a 100-foot version where the fence posts are closer together. With the 164-foot version, I actually add in some extra posts to get rid of some saggy areas when the fence gets old or if I don't set it up properly. But we'll just say that the average fence is 164 feet long from Premier One, and that's the company that I happen to like. I'm not getting anything in this video from plugging them. I've plugged them in the past and they've given me some free supplies, but for this, I'm just plugging them because I think they're wonderful. If one fence is 164 feet long, and if you make that into a circle, you know, that's our 164 feet, that gives us 2,140 feet squared to put birds into. And we're going to get into why that's significant in a second. If you have two fences, which is what I do, like I take two fences, this is 164, 164, I put them together, and when I move them on pasture, I put two more fences, so I have 4 fences total. 2 fences like this, 2 fences like this, and then when I move the birds, they're all in here. I open this and I set up another fence and I open that end and I move everything up into the second area, close it up, and then I'll take this fence and I'll move it up here and I kind of leapfrog it through the pasture, and that's the way I manage my birds. I've got 650 videos on YouTube. Some of them cover that pasture rotation and how I've done that before. I had clever time lapses and stuff. So with 2 fences, that's 8,561 square feet. Now, I talked to Jeff Maddox of Fertrell. Fertrell is a great poultry and livestock nutrition company based out of Pennsylvania. Jeff Maddox is a genius. He's a guy who's like laughing at me at how simple my numbers are and how much I'm struggling talking about them on YouTube. That guy is amazing, and he can talk poultry nutrition, animal nutrition all day. So I said, Jeff, like, what is the recommended square feet of pasture per bird? And he said, no matter what the animal, John, I found a general rule of thumb that 1 square foot of pasture per day for 4 pounds of live weight for every animal. So if you have a cow that weighs 1,200 pounds, you're going to want to do that math. If you have a pig that weighs 250 pounds, you can do that math. I can't do it in my head. If you have a chicken that weighs about 4 pounds, which is your average egg layer, 1 square foot of pasture per day. If you go back and watch my previous slide, you'll see how many chickens you can fit in that 1 pasture per day. And if you want to move them every couple days, depending, you know, like there's so many variables that can go into this that, again, it's the process. It's not the exact numbers that I have here. But take this as a good rule of thumb, 1 square foot of pasture per day for 4 pounds of live animal weight. Now, if I was going to plug 2 people for that and thank them for this information, that would be Fertrell, Fertrell.com. Just amazing information and knowledge on poultry nutrition, and if you're looking to better your practices, that is a good place to start. And if you want perspective on how to start, how to grow, and how to make your business viable, go to APPA, APPPA.org. That's the American Pasture Poultry Producers Association. They're phenomenal, but we're just going to move on because we all know that I love me some APPA. Now we're going to go to some real-life examples of some Vital farms and some pasture-raised farms, and the pasture-raised farms are on a small scale, and I didn't have a time to bring up a lot of pictures of that, but we're going to go through some case studies right now of all of this in action, in the field, live and happening, and it's going to be pretty eye-opening. So we're about to dive into the fact that there's a lot of people raising them in mobile shelters, which makes it more difficult and challenging to manage the birds, but it ends with a better product, a better egg, a better chicken, healthier lifestyle. It's better for the soils, and I have some real life examples. But before that, if you head on over to farmmarketingsolutions.com and you have questions about these videos, about other videos, about how to get your own farm started, you can do 2 things. At the very bottom of the page, you can sign up for my email list, and that will give you notifications when I come out with new content, and I may answer one of your questions with a piece of content just so that we can all learn together. You guys can check my math, you keep me accountable, I help you as best as I can, and we all kind of learn and grow together. The rising tide raises all ships. Now, if you have a specific question about starting a farm, your farm website, your social media marketing, really farm marketing tailored, at the very bottom of the page, there's an Ask Me Anything form where you can fill out that form, ask me your questions, and we will be making content with our little screen here throughout the year to kind of get those questions answered the best of my ability. So let's get back into having a real pasture-based system where your birds are mobile and how you do some of that math if you're trying to calculate this for yourself at home. So let's get into some real life examples. One, I like these colors right here. You might be able to tell. But on Vital Farms, they have this transparency campaign where you can actually go and see 360-degree videos of their farms where they're showing you that the birds are outside of that barn. The whole point of this is that you can buy a carton of eggs and you can see that the name of the farm will be on your carton of eggs, so you can tie your eggs to an actual farm location. That's wonderful. I mean, that's a lot of work. At the end of the day, if nothing else, wow, they spent some money and some time putting all of this together. The logistics are mind-boggling for me. If they have over 10,000 accounts in the US, and they have 200 plus farms, this is a lot of work to go out, set up a 360-degree camera, capture the footage, put it all here, make it blah, blah, blah. If you don't buy their eggs and if you don't have a farm name to search, you can just put in a letter and it will start to auto-populate with different farms. And then you can pick one at random, put any letter of the alphabet, see if something comes up, pick one of them and take a look at these. So I went on and just did A and did one of the first ones that came up, B, one of the first ones that came up, C, one of the first ones that came up. It's hard to navigate using an iPad and searching around the 360 at one time. It gets really wonky. But what I did was take some screen grabs from some of the first farms I saw. These are pictures from that website. Now this one, we got some green grass. We got like 6 chickens outside. We still see the fixed barn in the background. They have a netting shelter with some shade shelter that if there's hawks, those birds can run underneath there and get some protection, or if it's too hot, they can go in there. But the grass is green and lush, but there's no birds on it. Like no birds are out and about here. It's one moment in time. It could be the wrong time of day. It could have been rainy. It could have been cold. It just the inopportune time to shoot that video. So we'll give them the benefit of the doubt that yes, the grass is green because there's no birds out here. But then I went on to some other videos and saw that where the birds were, it didn't look like that. Now this is one barn and I've hidden the names of the farms on these because I'm talking about it. This is not about the individual farms. This is about the marketing pasture-raised. And this is what their marketing and their video shows on their website, but I don't want to point out the individual farms except for the featured one, which they put the name up everywhere. You can see the barn with the pop doors. It's a 2 foot high by 8 foot wide little pop door that the birds come out. They're not allowed in these sections, I guess, but in this center row, we've got a lot of birds. The grass is all burnt out. There's no forage whatsoever. There's a lot of birds hanging out in one area. They're around a feeder or waterer here. And it's pretty clear that the fresh forage every day, no BS marketing is kind of BS by their own marketing because those birds are on dirt right now. We go to another one here. Here's the barn in the background. You can kind of see the pop door there. And we've got a few birds roaming around in the woods. The screen grab isn't the best because it was a screen grab of a 360-degree low-res video. But they're in the woods where there's not a lot of grass, so they might be able to scratch up some bugs and worms and salamanders and toads and stuff, depending on the area and the time of year. We've got a little bit of snow on the ground, so maybe it's colder outside. The birds have access to the outdoors, but they're not getting the true benefit of being pasture-raised. They're just in some of the woods here. On this farm, same thing. Burnt out ground where you can tell there's a lot of traffic from the birds. We got a few chickens up in the back here. Throughout this video, as you like scroll around, you don't see a lot of chickens out and about wherever they happen to set up the camera. But in the trafficked areas, you can see that one, with trees this tightly packed, you're not going to get lush green pasture and regrowth underneath. You're just going to have outdoor space where the birds can go. Again, a better way for a chicken to live, not pasture-raised. Here, they're on a field edge. The barn's in the back. It's a little blown out just because they were in the shadow, and then the barn's out back there. You can see some thin grass a little bit, and then once you get into the woods where the birds are, there's no grass, no pasture. It's just dirt and kind of burnt out. These trees are starting to die off, and whether that's because of the impact of the birds or because they're pine trees and it's getting warmer and climate is changing, like all my pine trees are dying without chickens aggressively pooping underneath them. So again, always the benefit of the doubt, but we have no lush green pastures in another example farm. Here's one. This is the one where I actually saw a lot of birds outside. Many of these videos don't have a ton of birds out. Now I don't have a statistic because I didn't go through every single video. So the couple dozen that I went through, you don't see a lot of birds. I wanted to find one specifically with a lot of chickens outside. And in this 360-degree video, they got a lot of birds out for the video. Again, it's in woods around a barn. So not long, lush green pastures that you can rotate housing and birds and manage manure load. You have a different soil structure in a forest. You can see the burnt out ground around the barn, and then you have a ton of chickens, not really foraging, they're just out and about. Maybe they did something to pull them out. Maybe all those birds wanted to go outside. But here's a good example to balance out some of the other examples of the birds actually being outside. Better way for a bird to live, not pasture raised. This is what pasture-raised shelter looks like. This is from a friend of mine. Let's go to mine first. In my mobile coop, I use that Premier One fencing that we can see in the background here. And those fences are tied together. All my birds, because the coop is on wheels, I have a water reservoir inside here, which goes down into those buckets, and it's auto-fed. There's a float valve. So there's 3 55-gallon drums, so I got a 150-gallon reservoir. I'm not fitting 5,000 birds in this shelter, I will say. And then I've got fresh water for the birds, and then we dump it out and hit it with a brush when it gets a little, gets some algae buildup. I hang the feeders underneath the coop so they're out of the water, out of the weather, they don't get rained on. I got nest boxes in there. I've tweaked the design through the years. This isn't the 100% the current design, but they've got fresh air. And the point I want to make with the mobile shelter is that this shelter moves around on the grass. I can go to where there's fresh grass versus a barn doesn't move because it doesn't have these things to make it mobile or and move around the pasture. So you can't manage the ground as well with a fixed position as you can with a mobile coop. And there's tons of different kind of designs on these. There's things on this that I wouldn't do again. There's things that I would do again. It's a lot of compare contrast with the other members of the American Pastured Poultry Producers Association, because there are people raising up to 40,000 chickens on mobile range systems in mobile coops that look a lot nicer than this. So there's one, there's mine again. There's another friend of mine in New York, similar mobile system. This is where I got some of the ideas for mine. Feed and water is outside, nesting boxes are inside, doors that flap up that you can pull the eggs out of nest boxes. These, in particular, those birds are followed behind a grazing herd of Black Angus beef cattle, and they scratch the patties, eat the bugs and the fly larvae that are coming from it, spread that nutrition out, and are part of that farm ecosystem. So I want to leave you today on just this picture of my birds out on pasture, historical photo because it's winter right now and my birds are stationary within a penned area. If you follow me on Instagram, I will shoot live video and pictures from my mobile coop this weekend after the video goes live to show you what my system looks like. On Instagram, it's @marketingfarms. You can go and ask me questions about all of this and continue the discussion on farmmarketingsolutions.com. And quite frankly, another long video. We're getting off eggs in Vital Farms after today, and we're going to concentrate on some other greener pastures, other products, other things that I buy from my store because we're doing consumer reviews. And I hope you've learned something. I hope this has expanded your body of knowledge. Whether my numbers match up to what you got or not, the whole idea is the process, not the end result. You know, if our end result is healthy soils, what we want to drill down, like we know what that is. We want to drill down on how do we better our process so that we end with healthy soils. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video, and until next time, I will see you out in the field.